guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called What is the weather like in Sweden, summer and fall in Sweden? So I have no idea, but we're going to find out. So let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe.
I think talking about the weather in Sweden is quite an interesting topic, and I'm sure people who want to move to Sweden, this is something they want to know about. So in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the weather. I have experienced 2 seasons, or let's say kind of almost 2 seasons, definitely the summer here, and now the fall started. So I wanted to talk about both seasons a little bit to give you a better picture of what it is like in Sweden. As you can hear, I actually currently have a cold, so I'm ready for fall season. I have a little bit of a runny nose, which I will just cut out, and a little bit of a cough, but I wanted to do this video anyway, and maybe it's quite suitable anyways because I'm talking about the weather. So if you're new to my channel, normally my voice is a little bit different, and my name is Julie, and I'm originally from Germany, and in the past 10 years I lived in London, UK, and then almost 4 months ago I moved to Sweden. And I started to document my journey here in Sweden from the very beginning, just because I think it's interesting to see what it looks like when you just move to Sweden compared to maybe 1 year in or 2 years in.
That's true.
If you
Your
enjoy hearing
perspectives
about my journey, my new adventure here in Sweden, then make sure to subscribe to my channel. So let's talk a little bit about the summer first. So I moved here 1st of June this year, 2021, which is a great date because I will always remember it, which is really
it's
good.
Like fresh
and
month,
that was
fresh
really
life.
the beginning of summer. Sometimes it starts a little bit later in Sweden, but yeah, this year it was quite a nice temperature already. I think it definitely started out with 20 degrees, and then it got actually even hotter. Also, July was a pretty hot month. I was told that this summer was a bit of a special one. It was hotter than usual. I think summer temperatures are normally between 20 and 25 degrees here in Sweden. Well, at least in the south, it could be maybe the same or a little bit colder in the north. But yeah, this summer it was definitely hotter. We had
24.
Quite a few days, if not weeks, where it was nearly up to.
I think it just depends where you're from, but yeah, I think like Sweden, for Sweden, I think it's very hot.
30 degrees. I can definitely tell
30
it was
is a lot.
really hot.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time at the beaches here in Stockholm, which was really nice.
Is that a lake? It doesn't look like a beach. It looks like a lake.
Absolutely gorgeous. But I have no doubt that summers in Sweden in general are just really beautiful. And because we just moved here, we spent the entire summer actually in Stockholm, which I know there are a lot of people who would recommend to get out of the city and into nature, and there are so many other beaches which I can't wait for next year to explore. But we had to sort out so many things that we couldn't just, go off and enjoy ourselves and explore Sweden too much. But that's absolutely fine. We plan to stay here longer than only one summer. So there will be plenty of summers to explore. One thing I mentioned in my previous videos is that it gets quite quiet here. So people really make the most out of the Swedish summer, and that means they take the majority of their holidays in the months of July and August. And most Swedes, if they live in the cities, they would travel all over Sweden or maybe abroad as well. But I mean, Swedish summers are really beautiful, so you kind of want to be in the country. It's probably better to go on holiday abroad in the colder months. So yeah, as I mentioned,
definitely time, skip the cold.
We really spend at the beaches here in Stockholm, and there are really many. This is really something I have not seen in many cities, where you can literally just take public transport and it looks like you are outside of the city. I thought that was really great. But yeah, let's quickly also talk about the beginning of fall, which started, and it really started pretty much already end of August, which was very new to me because I literally had my phone in my hand all the time comparing the weather in London with Stockholm. And I could not believe it. London got the peak of their summer end of August.
Yeah.
And I think beginning of September, they really had temperatures of like around 30 degrees.
To me, that's still
Their
summer.
summer was very, very late. Whilst here you could really feel it got colder a little bit, especially in the evenings, especially when the sun was not out anymore. And that was for me actually a little bit of a new thing. But yeah, fall came quite quick and in my opinion, quite early. But despite the temperatures falling a little bit, there was maybe 1 or 2
To me, like fall, it's gotta be October, not early than that.
weeks where there were a few rainy days. But then in the past 2 weeks, I would say it looks absolutely gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
You can see that the leaves of the trees are changing. I just love to open up the window in the morning and
this is your view.
cold, fresh air. I was actually really excited to experience that side of Sweden, you know, the next season after quite a hot summer. And it's just really nice to go outside and go for a walk. I'm sure it helps to go for a walk in nature. I can't help it, but in the morning it looks like golden a little bit, yellowish.
Because of
golden.
the sunlight, yeah.
I was telling my partner the other day, is it just me or does it look a little bit golden? And he confirmed it actually.
No, I believe you.
And I'm sure it's because how the sun is reflecting on the leaves and the leaves changing to yellow from green. So yeah, the only downside maybe is my cold at the moment, but I definitely got this from my daughter and she got it from nursery. It's not something new. Nursery is just brutal when it comes to illness. So I just have to go through this. But you know, the experience of fall is really authentic. The one thing which I actually also quite like, I can see even more fairy lights popping up, and obviously because it's getting darker a little bit earlier, it just looks really pretty. And of course the next season will be winter. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little first impressions of my first summer in Sweden and my first fall in Sweden, and I will make sure to update you on the next season as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and I will see you in my next video. Have a great day and stay safe. Hej då!
Okay, I think like it's really like I think it's really funny. The whole like the after fall, yes, comes winter. It's like, well, I'd be scared of like Swedish winters, but I don't know. Maybe she's maybe not that it's not that scary to her. But I think like the whole like summer and fall, I think it's really funny like seeing things in perspective. Because she was like, oh, you know, they arrived in June, and it was like June, July, well, throughout the month of June, because she arrived on the 1st. So it's like June, July, and then in August, like there was, you know, it's fall started, so it got cold again, and the sun apparently was starting to sort of like, we almost like do not get any sunlight. So it's really funny again how like perspectives I think can shift, because it's like, wow, the summer only lasted like 2 months. That's so like sad to me. Not that summer, I think again, depending like what sort of like what's your favorite season, I think it depends. Like everyone has like their own. Yeah, some of them have their advantages, some of them have their disadvantages. Well, all of them have advantages and disadvantages. But, you know, summer, usually, like, people love summer, right? Because, yes, you know, it's very sunny outside, and, yes, you go to the beach, you go to the lakes, you go swimming, like, there's just, like, a whole sense of, like, people are, yes, you I don't know, you're, like, enjoying, there people out of, like, they don't have school, they do not usually, like, I don't know, if you're on a holiday, yes, you know, I don't have work. So, you know, on summer's like, everyone loves summer, yes, and a lot of, like, water sports in particular, and, yes, because it's, like, really hot, so, yes, it's refreshing. But I will say, like, summer can be like quite miserable. You know, not this kind of summer, because she appeared, you know, she was like, you know, it's like the nice kind of summer, which is like, yes, it's hot. You know, apparently you can get up to like 30 degrees, which is really hot. But usually go to the lake, you go to the beach, and it's like it's hot outside. It's not comfortable to be like, I don't know, like running around, but just, you know, you can like go to the shade and, I don't know, like have ice cream, have like a few like cold beers. But summer can be very miserable if like when you're talking about like very humid like summers when there's like a lot of like humidity, which doesn't seem to be the case here. So I'm glad, because it's not like a very humid summer, and there's just like it's very like damp, and even dry summers like the desert. Like also I think like that sucks. So I think like summer has their own sort of like Jesus. Like there's like sometimes it gets so hot that it's quite miserable to just like walk around. You don't really want to do anything. And even if you're like, oh yes, like let's go to the beach, it's like it's seriously like so hot out, like it's so hot outside, you don't even want to go. It's like, no, I'm feeling so terrible, like I can't even like get out of like this chair. I don't even want to go to the beach, because like the act of like actually getting to the beach, like no, I can't, I'm gonna melt. So it is awful. Summer, like those type of summers are miserable. And I'm glad that Sweden doesn't get them, actually. But it's kind of like, it's kind of curious to me, because she's like, oh, it gets like between 20 and 24 degrees, which I think is like a normal, that's like the perfect temperature, super comfortable, like nice. It's really, I think it's perfect. But it's like, that's their summer, which I think is really funny, because it shows like how cold it actually is. Like, that, like that part of like, they're really like up north, like, geographically. And it's really like, yes, I can't believe like you're like, wow, it's summer. It's like 24 degrees. It's like, come on, that's like normal. I don't know. It can be, I know that's not really like summer. Summer temperatures are like closer to 30 sometimes, or like over 30. That's, again, it depends on where where in the world you're located. And yes, it can be like that. But I think over like 30, I think it's where it starts to get like, wow, this is really intense. This is not comfortable. This is not nice. This is actually dangerous. But I'm glad, so happy for them. But something again that I find it like so I don't really know. But the way she was talking about this, it's like, oh yeah, it gets really hot, which is like, yes, sure, it's hot, but there's like you have to separate this and have to like differentiate between the uncomfortable type of heat where it's like, oh my god, I'm like so hot, and the actual, no, seriously, I cannot go outside. And that's, those are like, because it's dangerous for my health. So I think those are like two different kind of things. You have to actually differentiate between them. But 30 degrees, I wonder if like 30 degrees in Sweden, like it hits, like they hit a little different from places that are just like a little like southern, so a little, or at least south of Sweden. Because it's like, she's like 30 degrees, again, that's like really uncomfortable. Like they can, in some places, it can even, because again, it's not really that hot in the great scheme of things. Again, it depends on what you're comparing to it. Some places can get up to almost 40 degrees, which is crazy. So again, if you're comparing to that, it's like, well, 30 degrees is like, it's nothing. But again, 30 is incredibly hot, or you can get pretty hot. But I think it just depends on where you are. And I'm pretty sure like maybe, like temperatures just like vary, like they vary so much that I think 30 degrees in Sweden are probably not the same 30 degrees that you get in, I don't know, in Alabama or in Texas, or even in Europe, like in Portugal, Greece, Spain. Like there's because they're all like southern. So it's really not really the same. So like their 30s are not the same 30s that everyone else is sort of like experiencing. So it is kind of like, what, I think summers in Sweden actually sound very, very nice. Sound very, very, yeah, they sound very nice. Even places like, I think New York, like they can be like miserable because it's really so incredibly hot. It's not comfortable. It's not nice. But apparently over there, it's just like a breeze, and but I think it makes me sad that they only get this for like 2 months out of the year, which I think is like so short. It's like, oh my god, okay, work 2 months. Well, it's over. It's cold again, which is like, oh my god, and now like we don't get sunlight. So it seems like, I don't know, it's kind of, Sweden looks like such a weird place to actually live. And fall, yes, and what do you mean fall starts in August? To me, it's like, no. September, I think that's still summer, right? Like, to me, that's summer. I don't want to see any fall-related, like, pumpkin items and orange items, like, up until October. Because, seriously, September is still the summer. That to me, I feel very strongly about this. So it is like, what? No, come on. We're still like, why are you like, September is not fall. September's still like that between one. You can still squeeze out like some summer activities in that period because it's still, again, because of the weather, it's still very nice outside. It's not that cold. So, but apparently in Sweden, not the case. Although I get also that I know that sometimes like weather can act weird and there's like different seasons, and you know sometimes we have like really atypical or weird years in general that we like apparently this one it's like, oh well, you know, summer this like we don't have a summer apparently, like this year said no to summer and we are skipping like straight to fall. So yeah, sure. But yeah, I'd be so curious about this video in the winter because like, oh my god, I'm scared about the winter. But maybe it's not as traumatic as I am imagining, because in my head I had this thing of like, oh my god, it's so incredibly like snowy and you can't go outside and it's just like so incredibly cold. And again, it's miserable. I think like if you're just complaining, I'm complaining about every single season. It's like, no, they're miserable in different ways. Although I think I prefer winter actually, because I think summer is just like you're like so hot. Like the sun is scorching and you're like, oh my god, no, this is awful. I feel like I'm literally like I'm gonna pass out. But when it's cold, it is cold, so it's miserable in other ways, as in like I don't want to go outside and do things. But at least you're like, you can get cozy at home and be like, you know what, at least I can get warm. So, you know, again, and sometimes I know that not all places are like this, because sometimes of weather and sometimes of like, sometimes certain kind of winters and certain kind of like, depending on the climate, it's just like this very, again, humidity, I think it has to do a lot with this. It's like, it's not like a dry type of like cold. I can't explain it, but sometimes it looks like the cold just like steeps right into your bones, because it's like, it's very like, I think it has to do with humidity as well, of like, oh, it's so incredibly like cold outside that it doesn't, you feel like you're wet. Like you feel like your body is kind of wet and everything's like so cold to the touch that it seems wet. So it's like I can't never get warm. It's like, because again, it's like seeping into my bones and I can't actually like get warm because everything looks cold and wet. But it's not wet. It's just like it feels wet because it's cold. So there's that type of like cold, which is like not, again, not the best. But I would take it. I would take that before the summer, because it's like, see, I'd rather that than pass out. So then maybe that's just me. That hopefully like she'll have an easier time over there. And again, it's like, I am imagining extremes, and maybe like actually winter in Sweden like sounds wonderful, especially like Christmas. I would love to experience like a Christmas in Sweden, just because again, I imagine everything looking very like magical. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.